Hey, y'all. We're here at the Gulf Coast Industry Forum. I'm joined by Charlie Jenkins, who's visited with Big Magazine a few times in the past, but he's got a new role, which is CEO. Charlie, tell us about the new role. And for folks that don't know, you've been with the Port Houston for 34 years.
That's right. Well, I joined Port Houston in this month, 34 years ago, as the first intern at the port from grad school, University of Washington. Worked my way up through the ranks, and in April, I was blessed and humbled to be appointed as the new CEO for the port. It just became official. It's been a mentorship and a training with the previous leader, Roger Gunther, who's just a wonderful leader, and he left last week, and I've been doing my best since.
Well, Charlie, we got a lot to cover. Let's get into Project 11, which is the deepening and widening of the ship channel. Tell us where we are with Project 11.
Yeah, we're doing great with Project 11. We're meeting our targets. We're generally on schedule, on budget for the portions led by the port. Typically, these projects are done by the federal government, but we decided to do a bunch of self-funding with our industry partners, really accelerate the project, and we're easily a decade ahead of where it would normally be. It's about building that channel capacity to meet market demand, making the channel wider and safer through the bay, and then in some of the upland portions, we're both widening and deepening.
Charlie, you threw out a lot of numbers when you were on stage, but for folks that maybe don't really understand the impact of Port Houston, throw out a few of those numbers and why Project 11 matters so much.
Yeah, sure. Well, so the port is a massive economic engine, right? It's not the Port Authority or the Port Houston. It's all of our industrial partners. And combined in 2022, we had a $906 billion annual economic impact for the nation and about 3.5 million jobs in the nation. So we're a big player driving a lot of the economy, and a lot of good things are happening.
Charlie, a lot of people don't understand the environmental impact and the benefits of Project 11. I want you to cover that if you would. What are the environmental improvements that we'll see through this investment?
Sure. Well, I'm going to even step back a place because the port's been here a very long time. We have a very long serving petrochemical and general cargo and dry bulk and container industries. And then a few years ago, George Mitchell invented fracking, and fracking allowed us to get more oil out of the ground, more raw minerals out of the ground, cheaper, better, faster. And it really changed the port quite a bit. It allowed our industrial partners to have low-cost feedstock, allowed them to make more money, allowed them to reinvest, retool. And today we have a very modern port. And that fracking also led to the demand that led to Project 12 and just our general growth, sort of as one of the many root causes of the success of the port. Now with Project 11, it's a big project. We've done a lot of mitigation in partnership with the Corps and our partners and with a lot of community input. We're building all of the material used from the bay section is being used beneficially, all the good material. We're building oyster reefs and marshes and bird islands. And then overall, the project reduces NOx emissions up to 7% by just the efficiency of the bigger ship, lessening the impacts per ton of cargo. So some real good environmental benefits coming out of the project.
Thanks, Charlie, for covering that. I want to get into something you mentioned, and that is as we have a lot of transport, both civilians and as well as carriers moving product all up and down our roads in and out of Port Houston. We talked about that peak challenge, that peak congestion that happens daily. There was some talk of a plan or at least a desire, right, to try and balance that out, maybe even through 24 hours, even through the weekend. I found that interesting. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, sure. So the root cause is industry is able to develop a new facility on a short timeline, maybe 18 months to 3 years. So's the port. And the roadway systems to improve take 10 years. They're very long-range projects. So we've been growing so fast. There's so much industrial development by us and our partners, a big part by the partners, that the roadway system is having a hard time keeping up with the freight. That leads to congestion. So there's a big effort going on with the state and HGAC and HECTRA and the counties and the cities to figure out how to adapt to that and minimize that congestion, not only to protect the traveling public, but also to make sure we don't put a collar on that industrial growth by raising cost too much. So, one of the easy things just to look at is our roadways are by freight are generally Monday to Friday daylight. Mm-hmm. And if we can extend and use that infrastructure when it's not being used, we can just lessen the congestion and take advantage of that size of it. That will require an economic draw. Drivers are going to have to want to work tonight. There has to be incentive. So there's many people in the supply chain that would have to be engaged for that kind of a cultural shift. But we're starting to talk about it, and it's one of many potential solutions to address that challenge.
Makes sense. Thanks for talking about that, Charlie. So my last question is, for people who don't know, Project 11 means there's been 11 major projects in the history of the sport. So how about Project 12? You mentioned it. What can you tell us right now about Project 12?
Look, it's in its early development stages for right now, and it's about meeting market demand. It's about the next phase of the ship channel. Project 11 was really about widening versus deepening, by far more widening than deepening in that project. And really, Project 12 will just be the next bite of that elephant as we meet to take care of the economy and meet those opportunities by providing the infrastructure. We also have a coastal barrier and a coastal protection system that has a lot of discussion right now, and it needs lots of dirt. So another thought of Project 12 is that we can align those projects. If that is built and they need dirt, dig it out of the channel, two birds with a stone, get more security and safety for the community and the industries, and then also get a little bit of economy of scale of building the next project. So it's way over a decade away, but it's something we're already planning, thinking, and starting to work on.
Charlie, I always appreciate your time, and thank you so much for hanging out with Big Magazine.
My pleasure. Thank you very much. Great questions.